Hello, so haven't done a video in a while, been a bit too busy, maybe a bit too busy on the water, no, been busy in the shop, but yeah, just wanted to do a video on where I'm at with four-wheel drive basically. I've had my unit now, my max power or max unit for about almost a year now, and the last 4 sessions have just been absolutely insane. And I just want to basically run through what I've done differently, what I've got and what equipment I'm using and why and how it's feeling, and like hope this helps you basically get into the same position if you've already got a four-wheel drive or you're thinking about getting a four-wheel drive. Hopefully it can help some people. So start off where I was at, and maybe the earlier videos will show you that. So I initially bought the four-wheel drive because obviously you can do a few different things with it. It's a modular system that fits onto any existing mast. They also do integrated masts, but I really like it because we can sell it to people who've already got, in my case, Duotone masts, as it comes with a universal adapter. And yeah, basically you can put this onto any mast you already have, whether it's the carbon or aluminium, and use it for either e-foiling, like dedicated e-foiling. So you might have a 60 centimetre or 70 centimetre cable length. So there's different cable lengths that run from the battery up to the motor. You can extend it right up to here, which is what I'm doing in my earlier videos. It's a really good way to learn how a foil works. Maybe you're getting into winging, or maybe you're getting into downwind supping, subfoiling. But yeah, it basically allows you, when there's no wind, or on flat water or on a lake, to understand how a foil works and basically have some fun, learning how foil works. The thing that I think I've learned since those earlier videos is size of board puts quite a lot of weight and different sort of surface area and leverage on masts. I tend to always use carbon masts just because that's what I use winging. I think if you're going to use the foil drive system for dedicated learning how to use a foil, I would stick to aluminium and stay with aluminium. I think a stiffer mast will help with bigger boards and more body weight and larger foils. So I was initially using a 1305 Glide, which has got quite a big wingspan. And when I was going full tilt in full e-foil mode, I could just feel a little bit of like flex. And I think that was from my longer carbon mast. And yeah, obviously the bigger wingspan of my Glide. But now I've compressed everything down and got a smaller board, shorter mast and a smaller foil. I'm not noticing that at all, and it's working really, really well. So if you're first time using it and you want to use a big board, try and use a stiff mast, basically is what I'm trying to say. So now this is a 25 centimetre cable, which I've put quite a big kink in it because I'm using a quick mount. Don't know if you can see that in the video, but I'm using a quick mount SLS Duotone mast. Also, I wanted to, it seems like the 20 centimetre cable length is the right cable length for assist motoring. I like to call this assist motoring, where I'm using the motor to get myself up onto the foil and into position on a wave. And then I'm basically letting go of the trigger and using just the foil and the power of the wave to push me along. The length of your cable can be depending on sort of the conditions that you ride in. 20 to 25 seems to be the optimum. Some people, they have one now as short as I think 12 centimeters, which is really short. So the motor will be very, very high. It just basically reduces the chances of the motor causing any drag or lowering any performance that you feel when you're on the wave. I don't find any problem with the 25, but I have got a kink in it which lowers it by a few centimeters. So 20 or 25 is the cable length to go for in assist mode. That's what I would recommend. Yeah, so board size. So I've now gone down to, this is a 40 litre Duotone dedicated prone foil board. This is the Duotone Crush SLS, full carbon board, super lightweight, really high performance. I was quite nervous about ordering it. I was quite close to cancelling it a few times. But yeah, I'm really, really pleased that I got this. It is incredible and makes prone foiling so much easier. Initially, when I was learning to use the foil drive, I was using like winging boards. And before the Skybrid came out, I was using a big downwinding board, which was actually quite bulbous in the nose and quite a lot of nose rocker. And then also I was then using my Sky Style when I got more confident, which is a 65 litre Sky Style with, again, lots of nose rocker. And actually, I think that was making it harder than it needed to be. These boards and prone foil boards, much like a mid-length, are very, very flat and straight rocker line. That basically, like I was explaining in the mid-length video, I was talking about the Skybrid, that straight rocker line, it's almost dead straight on the deck. Apart from, and underneath, apart from the nose rocker, which comes up to obviously stop the nose from catching on chop and waves as you go down waves. The thing is, like, the board's in the air once you're on the foil, and these boards are designed for only foiling. So once the board's in the air, the shape of the board isn't so important. But what is important is when you've got the motor running or you're paddling, which is what this is initially designed for, is paddling, paddle prone foiling. You need glide and you need the board to go forward and generate as much speed, because obviously you're using your arms, which isn't like, effectively that powerful, and you don't want to be too tired. There's a lot of drag in the water as well, because you've got a mast and a foil underneath the wave. A straight rocker line, much like the Skybrid, basically glides along the water surface before you then come up. And the faster you can go along the water surface, like a boat planing along the water, or a windsurfing board planing on the water, the straighter rocker line promotes and helps that, because generally you're riding these in flat water, generally like softer or calmer water in between waves. It's generally quite smooth. You want to get planing so you can get onto the foil and then take off. Yeah, makes a huge difference. Like, I've got nothing to lean against. I haven't got a wing, I haven't got a sail, I haven't got a kite. I've just got a remote in my hand. Like, the time to step up and get onto the board, even though I know I've also had some practice, it's so much easier on a board like this. So do consider what board you're using, and yeah, do think about either getting a mid-length, like a small Skybrid, that would work really well, or the Crush, which is obviously a dedicated prone board. This is the 40 litre, which is the bigger of the two sizes that Duotone currently do for the Crush. I am only 70 kilos. I do think I could quite comfortably be on the 4.6, I believe it is, which I think is 10 litres or 10 or so litres smaller than this one. But yeah, I was very nervous about going down to a small board. I can see why most people who have had a four-wheel drive for a while are getting smaller and smaller boards. Like, because you've got the assist, you've got the motor pushing you along, the volume of the board doesn't really make that much difference. Once you're up and you're on the foil, you just want everything to be compact so you can control the foil and be more and more radical with your maneuvers and your carving. Yeah. Like, considering, just a little overview and a little bit of a snapshot of foil drive, for me, the conditions we've had recently, we've had 4 sessions in the last 2 weeks where there's been some groundswell come through. And when I say groundswell, I mean like barely chest high. Like, you probably get on it with a SUP and a SUP longboard. Surfing it would be very difficult. You might get a very short ride right on the inside. I wouldn't want to paddle like onto it with a foil, and I think there's almost no chance, unless you were right on the shore break, you'd be able to prone foil those waves, or the waves we've got here, without a foil drive. So, but the buzz and the foil drive is like, I was thinking earlier today, or I was talking to someone about it yesterday, when SUP surfing came out, like, so I've got a Style Master, I really like that board. It was helping me catch every single wave, possible. But once you're on a wave, especially if the wave is sort of shoulder or chest high, you just really want to be on a smaller board because you want to start maneuvering. And that is the beauty of prone foiling. And I can see why so many people are getting into it. Like, before foil drive was really a thing. And obviously foil drives do cost quite a bit of money. I can see why people are getting into, prone foiling. Once you're up, you're on a very small board, you're on a small foil. The foil gives you extra sensation, but everything is what you want. You're going to get, you get everything back in really crap conditions, or really like unexciting conditions. The video I posted a week ago, like, might not look that exhilarating from the camera, but yeah, I've had the most amount of fun, and me and the other guy that's locally that's got one of these, we're just constantly texting each other about, there's a little bit of swell, even if it's just onshore wind swell, from a storm that's come through the night before, because you've got a motor, it's not hard to get out back. You just, yeah, like if you're thinking about it, seriously, like they are a lot of money, but it is just insane, like how much sensation you get back from being on a small board, small foil in really mediocre conditions. Yeah, it's quite a buzz. Where should I go next? So I'm using the 3-blade prop. Again, I'm just trying to make my way down to like the smaller sort of setups and the more performance setups. The 4-wheel drive initially comes with just a 2 propeller setup, which does definitely works absolutely fine. Because I was going down to a much smaller board, I wanted to give myself an easier chance of getting going. So I've put the 3-blade on there, and it just gives you more torque, more sort of power at the earlier stages of engaging the motor and getting up. So it helps me get up and onto my standing prone position quicker. But I do think now I've done this 3 or 4 times with this setup, I would like to now try it with the 2-blade, because using a 2-blade, you've got less drag in the water, you're using less of the motor, and then effectively, I believe it should make the battery last longer. So yeah, 3 blades, especially in e-foil mode, really help give you that lift and give you all the power you need to get up, especially if you're a heavier person. I'm not particularly heavy, but I still really like the 3-blade prop. So if you are a heavier person, I really strongly recommend the 3-blade prop upgrade kit. And then, yeah, consider taking off the blade if you want a bit more runtime. Going on to batteries and runtime. So I've got the max power, and I've only actually sold max powers. I can see now I'm on a smaller bit of equipment. If you're really good and you can properly pump and get yourself back out and not use the motor all the time to get back out, the slim, the weight reduction you get from the slim, I can see the potential and the benefit of that. However, I want to have longer run times. I can't do that, and not a lot of people can pump boards and carry on and catch the next wave. It's a very high level of riding. I don't really find any problem with this. I can feel there is weight on the board, but now I've compacted everything and got the Whizz, it's working really, really well. So the max power with the kit and everything adds around 4.5 kilos to your setup. But then there's the max. I've also got as a spare battery, so I can come in and extend my session. I've got the max Sport, which is about 10 minutes less run time, but about 1 kilo less in weight. And I do notice that kilo, like the performance gain you get from losing 1 kilo. I do notice it, but that doesn't mean that the max power has any problems. Like, I've used both. I've gone out initially on the bigger battery, the heavier battery, and then swapped and gone, oh, it feels nice now. It's nice and light. And then other times I've gone out and done it the other way around, and I've actually had some of the best rides on the heavier battery. So it really just comes down to you getting used to it, and you just get used to it, basically. Yeah, and it's just not a problem at all. I'm using a quick mount mast because the downfall of a modular system like this without having an integrated mast is that, there's quite a bit of faff like setting this up. So I've got the luxury of owning a shop. I have bought myself a dedicated mast. I went for a quick mount because I hate putting together foils, and it is a little bit fiddly, like aligning these bolts through this base unit, this battery holder unit, into the tracks. It is a bit fiddly, and before work and after work when I'm in a rush, like I just want it ready to go. I know that's obviously an expense and not necessarily something that everyone can afford to do, but if you can, I really would consider a quick mount. All I have to do then is unattach this motor cable, so the end of this cable screws into this battery case. If I want to take the mast off, there's just 3 little M6 screws, bolts. Unscrew that, pop that off, undo that one nut, and I can take the mast off and leave the motor and slide that into the back of the van. And then the board with this all stays on here and can just go in my board bag, and I don't have to then mess around with these 4 bolts, which can be a bit fiddly. Yeah, this lovely black electrical tape line, I need to find some white or grey tape, not this black one, is my antennae extender. So that's what this little cup is. So it's a little puck holder that has the antennae receiver for my throttle. A lot of brands, and Duotone including, are going to full carbon boards with carbon tracks to basically reduce weight. That, although carbon is a conductor, four-wheel drive have a whole video on why this doesn't work. But yeah, the Skybrid, from my experience, the Skybrid, this, which is the Crush, and I imagine the new Sky SLS, which also has a carbon box. I know the Skybrid doesn't work. I'm pretty sure this doesn't work, although I've always just put the antennae on it since I bought it. So I imagine all three of those boards, unfortunately, because they have a carbon box, you do need to buy the antennae, but it works really well. Yeah, unless the board is completely submerged underwater, like no board, even with, if you have this, that doesn't work either. But so all that needs to be is this needs to just be poking out the water a little bit. You get connection, and yeah, like there's absolutely no problem with it at all, and it's a really good system. And I have only done this tape once in a rush, and it hasn't come off, so it doesn't flap around or anything like that. I've just used wider electrical tape, and yeah, if I need to change boards or whatever, this pad I think they're like £10 or something, these little pads, but you can just stick this down with double-sided tape as well. But it means I can just unpeel that bit of tape and put the four-wheel drive system on another board. And yeah, just clean off, there's not going to be any residue from electrical tape. Yeah, so 3-blade prop, 20 to 25 centimetre cable length I think is optimum. Quick mount is really, really helpful. Obviously it's luxury. This is the max, which is adding 5 centimetre mast length. So I'm using a 75 on here because the box adds 5 centimetres. So it's effectively an 80 centimetre mast. I've got quite sensitive to mast length recently, and I've learnt quite a lot over the last year to couple of years with cable length. It is, I basically think, unless you're riding in big waves, if you want to get the optimum out of the wave, a shorter mast is definitely preferable. So this is a 75 plus 5 is 80. I'm finding now I'm on this shorter mast that I'm in the pocket and getting more power and more speed from the wave, especially where we are. The waves are pretty small. They don't break. They're just shoulders and like ripples that come through. I need to get as much of that power back so that I can stay up on the foil and not have to use the motor. That being said, one of my customers, local to here, he is using the 82 version of this mast with a 5 centimetre box, and he has no issue. I personally think a shorter mast compacts everything. There's less drag in the water. You can ride closer to the wave and just basically have a bit more control. But yeah, I wouldn't go 90 because a 95 plus the box is quite a long way away from the wave. Unless you're riding absolute monsters, then fair enough. You probably know way more than me. And then, yeah, lastly, foil. So I found the Whizz a bit of a funny one for winging, but basically it was always designed to be a prone foil, and I am fully in love with it now. So yeah, the Whizz is definitely the best, in my opinion, the best duotone foil at the moment for prone foiling. It always was designed to be a prone foil, but for foil drive, this is my absolute go-to. So I'm using the 1000 in the very, very small conditions, but I have found when the waves, the session last week, the waves at high tide started to get quite a bit bigger. They were almost sort of shoulder to head high, and a couple of times I couldn't, because this generates a lot of lift at low speeds. When I started getting up more speed, I found the 1000 was starting to become too big. So I have ordered myself an 800, because if I go down to Cornwall, I think this 1000 is going to be too big, which is why Pasty is always on the 800, or is it the 800 or 850? He's always on the smaller one, because even though he's heavier than me, the waves in Cornwall are just more powerful, they have more shape, and it's going to give you more lift and more speed and everything. So here we have very small waves. This is perfect for me and my body weight. If I was heavier, or my customers that might be heavier, I would recommend slightly bigger. But yeah, around 70 kilos, I'd recommend the 1000 for prone foiling on small waves. I'm then using a 60 centimetre aluminium 3BS fuse. The reason being, when I'm pumping, the length between the stabilizer and the mast is really short, so you get much more feedback more quickly, so it actually helps your pumping. It also means when you're carving, the foil is more twitchy because the radius of where the lift and where the foil is, everything's more compact, so I can carve and yeah, feel like I'm surfing, and it's absolutely amazing. So yeah, the Whizz is definitely my absolute go-to for duotone to foil drive with. I'm trying to think any other questions. My other customers using the Glide. I used to use the Glide. The Glide 2.0 is probably very, very good for this as well. But I just think the Optimum, in terms of feedback when I'm pumping, the Whizz, like I don't have to engage my throttle. The Whizz gives me enough feedback when I feel like I'm not getting enough speed, and I can glide, and just by pumping on small bits of a sort of chop from like there's a buoy marker here, which is about 500 meters out, I think, maybe a bit more than that. It's pretty far out. And yeah, the Whizz, absolutely love it. It's like fully in love with it now. Can see why people use this for like sup, getting into sup foiling or like paddle up. Yeah. Any other things I haven't pointed out? Don't think so. But yeah, this is where I'm at. Considering going smaller on the board, I'm going smaller on the foil for bigger waves. Cable length, if I could, I'd go slightly shorter. The 20 would be optimum, but a kink in the 25 is fine. Going to go down to the two blade prop just to try and increase my run time. Fast charger. Oh my God, what a difference the fast charger makes to the standard charger. It's just so much faster. It might be, it is probably definitely reducing the lifespan of my batteries, but I do think it's fast enough for me to almost effectively continuously be foiling with 2 batteries because it's so fast, and I can do it in my van. But generally the tides don't allow you to have that long a session, and actually, to be honest, my front leg cannot take it. Like an hour to an hour and a half of pumping just with your one leg front foot, because I'm left foot forward, because I can only really surf that way round. My front leg just isn't strong enough to do any more than that. So yeah, but the fast charge is brilliant. Also the inline, if you're on a massive rush and you've forgotten to charge your battery, the inline battery checker is really clever. It shows you how far along the charge is. You can also use it at the beach to see which of your batteries have got what charge in them. That's really worth getting. It's a small little add-on. I think it's £30, but it's really handy to have at the beach to see how much. What are you doing, Pegs? See how much battery your batteries have. Lastly, leash. So I'm using a coiled leash to try and keep the leash out the water. I'm actually using an old surf leash, but I would really recommend. Or I'm actually just basically. I've got really massive legs, but I'm joking. I've got really skinny legs, so I'm basically putting it just below my knee and finding that's working fine. But I do think a knee leash would be ideal, because you're not really, when you're prone foil driving, is that the right terminology? You're not really switching your feet. So taking the leash away from the floor and away from the water will stop it ever. I haven't found it touch the propeller, but I just don't want any drag. Basically, I want all the sensation and all of the feel in the equipment I'm using. I just want it all out the water. So I'm finding that a leg leash is actually optimum for me. Yeah. Any questions? Give us a shout. If you want to come and try this, or you're thinking about buying one, like seriously, like. This is a massive game changer. I'm just looking for small bits as a swell. And yeah, want to get down to Cornwall and try and use it in bigger and better waves. But yeah, any questions, give us a shout. Hope that's helpful for you. Bye.